broadcast, and I am here. We're having a little technical trouble in the green room. Sorry about that. Those things happen from time to time. So we're going to just move on ahead. Manny was here a minute ago, my guest, and he'll be back, I'm sure, in a moment. So going to send him a link one more time. We seem to have had some struggle this morning with technobabble, which happens from time to time. Thank you for being with us this morning on our Break the Cage Hangout. We are going to talk for the third time about integrity. It's funny, I go back to a comment I received way in the early days before the first hangout, which asked a question, why we needed three hangouts to talk about integrity, something that's so obvious. And the answer is both funny and obvious. The answer is because there's such a lack, because people pretend like they don't understand it, because there's so much of a lack of integrity in the world in general and in online marketing and in online business, but mostly in our personal lives. And so we live in this fantasy, fake land, wondering why we don't have the results and benefits in life that we want. And the answer is really simple. Lack of integrity, lack of doing, saying, being, representing, creating that essence and persona that we pretend, imagine or pretend or even project that we are. So anyway, today is the third one. The first week, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about what is integrity. And last week we talked about why it matters. Manny talked about what it does in our brains and implementation intentions and all that sort of thing. And today we're going to cover the third part, which is, okay, if you followed this and you actually understand what real integrity is, which we defined there's lots of ways to define it and lots of powerful ways. But let's just say that integrity is creating, doing, and being in life, in yourself first, and in your relationship second, exactly what you say, what you project, and what you believe. In other words, acting, being, and creating consistent with that which you pretend, project, and act like you are. Now, that might seem really obvious, and people might think, well, duh. But I can tell you, and you know this, I don't have to tell you this, there's a huge lack. So the next piece that people might ask us, so what difference does it make? We live in a world of situational values. We live in a world of situational ethics, where relationships only last as long as it's convenient, where business is only conducted, no matter what we said, as long as it makes sense and everybody's just supposed to understand. Well, of course I quit. Of course I breached the contract. Of course I did whatever, because why? Because it was convenient. It no longer suited my needs. And we live where that's okay, and everyone sort of has adopted the idea that situational ethics and situational circumstances is the order of the day, and everyone just has to understand that, and the notion that we're going to create and live a life of integrity has sort of gone by the wayside. So we talked about last time about what it actually does for you to live in integrity. We talked a little bit about creating a framework of integrity, about doing the things. Just start with the simple. Do you do what you say you'll do? How about to yourself? Do you keep your promises to yourself? I'm going to get up at this o'clock. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go visit a friend. I'm going to do this certain amount of stuff today, tomorrow, whatever. How good are we at keeping our promises to ourselves? That's sort of the foundational piece, right? Without that, you have no hope of integrity, because the way you or I do one thing is the way we do everything. So our integrity starts doing what we say to ourselves. The next layer following closely on that is, do we do what we say we'll do in our relationships and circumstances? Again, let's pick a very simple one. We tell people we'll be there at 10 o'clock and we show up at 10:15 or 10:30, and everyone is supposed to simply understand that life is busy and stuff came up, and of course it does. And who cares, and what's the big deal? And that's actually a breach of ethics and integrity, because the functionality of your interaction with that group or person between 10 and 10:15 was zero. And everyone else had the opportunity to have, would have had the opportunity to have the full functionality if you'd been there, but because you chose unilaterally to break that agreement, it wasn't so. So we talked about what it does to our minds. We talked about what it does to our bodies, just in terms of lying to ourselves all the time, creating the notion that whatever we say isn't really going to happen. It's only going to happen if it remains convenient, if it's easy to do, and if nothing gets in the way. Wait a minute. If it's easy to do, it's convenient, and nothing gets in the way, and I didn't get a better offer in the meantime, that's no way to either run your life or run a business. So that's what we've talked about a lot for the last couple of weeks, about what is integrity and then what it does to you to have it or to not have it, and what it does for you if you do have it. I see that Manny's jumped back on it here again. I hope he's got sound and everything. Manny, are you here with us? I see your mic's muted, so we'll just wait another minute. All right. So before we jump fully into today's topic, which is, oh, Manny, I see you unmuted. Are you there? No, I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to put the chat box up, put a note in there if you can hear me, so I know if all is okay. I'm showing everything normal on my end. All right. So before... Oh, okay. You can hear me. I cannot hear you, Manny, when you unmuted. So anyway, so here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to tell you about a really exciting development over the next 6 weeks, and then we're going to dive full on into our topic about how to create integrity for yourself. How do you do this? So if you believe everything we've talked about so far about what it is and why you need it and the total lack of it in many venues in our universe right now, then you might get to say, well, if it's so hard to do and so few do it, how do I do that? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I'm going to tell you what's coming for the next 6 weeks. Starting next Saturday in the Break the Cage Hangout, I am really excited. We're going to have a 6-week course. This is really cool. A 6-week course on language. Now, no, I'm not going to teach anybody how to speak Penguin because I don't speak it, or Swahili, or I speak reasonable Spanish, and I speak pretty fluent Dutch. But we're not going to do anything about that. We're going to talk about the power of the language we use, because most of us, like integrity, we just have loose lips. We just sort of spew our verbal diarrhea all over the world. And what I mean by that, and yeah, that's pretty insulting, but I mean it to be, we simply say whatever comes to mind. We say whatever we need to in a certain situation to end a conversation or to control a conversation. We say whatever we need to make a prospect feel good so they'll buy from us. We say whatever we need to get a kid to shut up so they'll quit bothering us. We say whatever we need to get a spouse to relax for a minute because we're not really ready to either have that discussion or our opinion's going to differ. And so we spew our verbal diarrhea all over the place, and then we wonder how come the future we live looks like diarrhea. Well, we have actually languaged the future we intend to live into. We have languaged the future we intend to live into. Oh, today sucks, man. Okay, well, it's going to suck the rest of the day. Why would you do that? Anyway, so we're going to have a 6-week course on language, what it is, how we abuse the crap out of it, how to fix it, and how to use it to create great power. Really excited. I've got a guest who is a really good friend of mine, who is a coach, also a very powerful coach, transformational coach, does the same kind of work I do, but of course, in his own inimitable way. His name's Ephraim Olszewski. I've known him for a long time, good friend of mine, and I'm really excited. I spoke at his event here just 3 or 4 weeks ago in Las Vegas. So anyway, now Manny's back. Manny, can I hear you? No, I still can't hear you. Very bad. I don't know. So I'm just going to soldier on. Here's what we're going to do today. How do you get integrity? How do you get integrity? Well, so integrity is a huge topic. That's why we broke it into 3 pieces, and it covers every single aspect of your life. And there's no way in 30 minutes I'm going to Manny and I, assuming he gets all tuned up here, there's no way we are going to explain all the ways that you can create integrity in your life. But we're going to start with some really simple and obvious ones. And if you don't master these, you have no hope of the complicated ones, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So get over it. If you think you can be out of integrity in your personal life and in the things that you say small and be in integrity in your business and your public persona, you're full of crap. You're fake, and you're projecting falsehood, and everyone can smell the energetic incongruence. Okay? And so, Manny, I don't know if I can hear you or not, but nod vigorously if you agree with that. He's nodding vigorously. I can't hear him. I wish he was on. I'm not sure why. But anyway, so Then how do you do this? Well, how about first, number one, admit full on, flat out, you lie too much and you need to be in integrity and you're willing to do whatever you have to do to create that circumstance in your life. Holy crap, I do. I say things I don't mean. I say things that I am not really intending on doing. I say things to placate people. I just do that and I'm not really intending to live in integrity with that. Admit that. And if I'm totally wrong and you never do that, then I am honored that you are here and that you live like that. And I mean that, because that's a difficult thing to do in our circumstance. So let's assume that there are maybe a person or two listening that does that, and don't be insulted, because if you have done that, then you know what a struggle it was and you know what I'm talking about. So for the rest of us all, the other 99.99999, let's then move forward and admit the fact that we lie all the time and that we live out of integrity. So let's start with the simplest of simple. Let's just take today, Saturday, April, whatever it is, 11th, 2015. How would you get integrity today? Well, let's start with the simple. You're already out of bed, so you cannot get out of bed at the time you said, and maybe you did and maybe you didn't. So the first thing is pay attention to every promise or implication that you make. One of the things that we do to stay on the line, the border of integrity, is we don't actually say stuff. We don't say, I'm going to be there at, well, I'll try to whatever. And that's, that's a crock. That's a pile of nothing, right? All that means is you're not dependable, and you show up when you show up, and everybody just sort of deal with me on that basis. And they will, but you won't have great relationships, and you won't have great progress, and you won't create great outcomes. So let's start with just the simplest of things that you tell yourself. What did you tell yourself you would do today? I am going to do some shopping. I'm going to do some yard work. I'm going to have this hangout. I'm going to, do some things with Joy, my wife, and all of you that follow me know her too. I'm going to do those. That's what I said. I'm going to do those things. If you don't really remember all the things you promised or implied that you would do today, the first piece to do is write them down. Grab a piece of paper and write down the things you promised to do today. Look at the list. How many are you actually going to do precisely the way you promised at the time you said? How much is possible? If there are 10 things that you wrote down, how many ever salvageable at this point? Maybe all of them, maybe half of them. Then renew that commitment and say, I'm actually going to do those. And the other 5 that I'm either not going to do, never intended to do, or I'm already too late to do, I acknowledge I did not do those, and I am never going to speak in that way out of integrity and create the expectation that I know people don't believe because I've been a liar all this time. I commit not to do that. So step 1, commit to change, commit to live in integrity with each word, with each inference, with each impression that you give. One of the things that really bothers me is we live in a world of half-truth. So rather than say we're going to do something, we dance around the edges and imply we might do it, or we're going to do it, or probably, but we leave people to wonder, and then we leave ourselves all kinds of wiggle room. Why? So that we can not do it and not feel bad, which is crap. It's no way to live, and it's certainly no way to produce great results and connect with your inner power. Now, those that are following me on Facebook, and I know that there are hundreds because I get messages all the time, we're doing a series on keys to power. Thursday was day 16. Yesterday was day 17, and I didn't get yesterday's video up. I actually have it made, and so day 17 is going to go up today, and day 18 will go up tomorrow or Monday. Sometimes I don't do them on Sunday because I go to church and worship and do some other things, and I may not do that on Sunday. But anyway, it's a 50-part series about keys to power. And one of the foundational pillars is going to be integrity. We haven't dealt with that pillar. There are 7 pillars in the Palace of Power, 7 keys. I call them 7 pillars with 7 locked doors, and you open the doors with the keys. One of the keys to power is integrity. And the keys to power are the way that you get all the power you want to have, all the wealth, health, happiness, relationship that you want in the world. Okay. And one of the keys to power is integrity, which is why we're talking about that today in this 3-part series. So the first piece, if you want integrity in your life, is to decide that you need it and that you're willing to make some changes to make it happen. Okay. Manny, I don't know if you're going to be able to get this mic thing solved or not. If you have comments or things you'd like me to read or say to the group, or things you want to agree or disagree with, please put them in there and I'll read them out in the chat. I've got the chat open.
Can you hear me?
The green room chat. So just stick stuff in there if you like. We'll just kind of limp through and that'll be okay. So the first thing to do is start today. Don't start with some grand vision on Monday. Well, Monday I'll start living in integrity. Start with the smallest thing that you can possibly do, and here's why. Write that down. Start today. Start with the smallest thing you can do. You start today because today is all you live. Putting it off and starting another day is already out of integrity. Because today, for the rest of today, you already have people that have trusted, believed, and thought that you said or implied you would do certain things, be certain places, act a certain way, be a dad, be a spouse, be a friend. And if you live out of integrity for those commitments, even one more day, that's still out of integrity, and that's not how you get there. So start right now with a commitment that you're going to make the changes, and then start with the smallest things. Now, here's an interesting thing about small things. If you start with small things, you are 1,000 times more likely to succeed because they're easy to do. Okay. And I'm going to white box Manny. Manny, do you agree with that? Nod. I'm trying to involve him. And Amani, do you agree down there too? I'm sure she agrees. Hey, there's a little one. Hold her up. Hey, little one, how you doing? You can't see me and you don't care anyway, right? All right. So
you still can't hear me, Kellen?
You guys start with the small stuff. Don't start kind of take over the world. How about I'm going to live in integrity just the rest of today. I promise these 4 things. I'm going to actually do them. All 4 of them. And then I'm going to be really careful about what I say or what I imply I will do tomorrow. And then Monday, if you have a job, if you go back to work, or if you're an entrepreneur and you run your business on the weekend, or if you take the Sabbath off, which I hope you do, make a vow with yourself. Determine that you're going to market what you really sell. Don't imply your services are bigger or different than they are. I'm a be all one, I'll fix everything place. Don't worry, whatever you need, I can do. First of all, that's bad marketing. But second of all, it's not true. And if you do that, either in your life or your marketing or your business, everyone knows it's a lie. And the only person you're fooling is you. And all that's doing is costing you both self-respect, power to run your business, and money. So you're sabotaging your business, you're sabotaging your self-respect, you're sabotaging your power to show up in the world. Okay, we talked a lot about that last week. So the keys to getting started. Number 1, start right now and make a commitment to do whatever it takes. Number 2, start with the small things. Okay. Now the next one is commit that you're going to do this even when it is difficult. Manny's got a comment there. Lots of energy lost in the internal conflict and pretending. I love that comment. Of course there is, because if you know that you're holding out a facade, whether it's even if it's to yourself. I mean, we hold all kinds of facades to ourselves. We lie to ourselves all the time. If you hold a facade out to yourself, there's internal conflict. If you hold a facade out to a spouse or a kid or a friend or a working relationship at work or anything else where you're pretending to be one way and being another, it takes 2 to 3 times the energy just to live that way. You're tired when you get out of the situation or when you get home from work. It wears you out because you've been living BS all day long. How exhausting is that? How non-productive. No wonder you have a jaded view of the world. It all sucks. I can't do anything anyway. Well, you're living that way. Of course it does. All right. Start today. Start with a commitment. Start with the small things. And then the next commitment is simply to say, you know what, I'm going to change my life in this way, in every way that I can. Now, here's one of the dangers. Whenever we make a significant change and we fail, we all beat ourselves up. Oh, see, I suck. I knew I couldn't do that. I can't hold that up. Don't do that. Any process is a process, right? Snapping your fingers and suddenly changing from being a liar about 98% of your life to telling the truth about 98% of your life isn't going to happen in a 94% swing. It's going to happen in a series of steps, 5 or 10% at a time. Now, you can set yourself some objectives. One way that I have done this is to say, look, I realize if I'm truthful that I make implications or half-felt promises, or I spout off intentions I don't really mean to keep. And I do that a lot. People are disappointed. I'm disappointed. All right, I'm going to keep track of those. I'm going to keep track of those for like a week and see how many of those things I say and don't do. Wow, there were 37. Next week, I'm going to make sure there's only 20. I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to be conscious of my language, conscious of the things that I say or imply that I will do and be. And then I'm going to take stock again in a week. Now, this isn't a crucifixion session. This isn't a time to say I'm bad. This is simply a time to keep some score and say, hey, you know what? I did 35 of those last week where I implied to someone or said to someone I would do something, be something, or act a certain way or do whatever. And I counted during the week 37 times that I actually didn't do it. I changed my mind. I got a better offer. Something got in the way. And I didn't even call them. So we're going to talk about making a new agreement in a minute as the last piece. So keep score is one thing. Start today. Start small. Keep score. Over a day or a week is actually better. A week. And I'm going to give you one more tip, and then that's really all, because you know, that's a lot. Adopt a new habit. And here's the new habit. When you know that you've said or implied that you're going to do something, and then it becomes clear to you that you don't, aren't, can't, won't, you have two choices of action. Do nothing, and then it becomes obvious to all those that you said something to that you're a flake. If they're used to you, then they know you're a flake and they expected that. What you can do instead is tell them, notify, you know what, something has come up, I can't. That's better than nothing, but it's not being in integrity. Being in real integrity, the next step up is to go to that group or person and say, I made this agreement with you. I'm going to sneeze, I think. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Now, the only question is, are there 2 or 3? 2. Okay. Go back to the person or group and say, look, I made an agreement to do this. I am not going to be able to keep that. What do I need to do to create a new agreement with you that satisfies your needs? And then work out something and actually create a new agreement, as opposed to simply assuming that they're going to accept the fact that you're a flake and that you either did or didn't tell them at the last minute. Sorry, I'm going to be 3 hours late, or I'm not coming, or whatever, right? That's not making a new agreement. Making a new agreement is acknowledging the hardship that you are placing on the relationship or the situation and saying, you know, this has happened. I am making a judgment that I am going to replace my agreement with you with something else that's going to cause you a hardship. What can I do to make a new agreement to make that right? Now, that takes more effort, but it also provides far more rewards for you personally by being in integrity and for the relationship. So that's one thing. Create a vow that you're going to create new agreements with the people that are affected by the changes of life. And life changes. I get that. But we seem to ignore it and assume everybody else is just going to suck it up. So don't do that. Make a new agreement. Now, the last piece we're going to do as we come down to the end, Manny's got something here. Lots of energy, lost internal conflict. What is measured and assessed compassionately improves with the non-judging attitude. I love that. So that's why I said, he's exactly right, of course, which is if you keep track of the number of times that you're not in integrity in a given week, and at the end of the next week, and you don't beat up yourself, oh man, I suck. You know that. That's why you're making the change. That's okay. You're human and you're making a change, which is the important part. So you get 20 points for that, and you're better than you were. So you already win. So there's no downness, there's no judging, there's no forget all that. That doesn't make good change anyway. At the end of the next week, if it's actually 42, then you need to make an assessment and say, why did this week go worse? I'm now trying to be conscious of it. Maybe I didn't keep good score last week. But just be light, be careful, and renew your intention. Don't give up. Renew your intention and keep score until it gets down to, sub single digit numbers. Hey, only 3 things this week I did, and I didn't do them. Or maybe there were 10, and 4 of them I made a new agreement on. So I'm really down to 6 where I just kind of was a flake. I like that. And you can get your flake score small, kind of like golf. I call your flake score your golf score, right? You want it to get small. All right, cool. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you, describe for you, is one other mitigation piece, a new habit that you can do. And that is when you flake and you haven't had time to make a new agreement, like you oversleep and you don't show up, or like something came up and you just don't do something and somebody's left hanging. Again, you have 3 choices. One is nothing, and then they wonder what happened, and if you do that regularly, you're a flake and they knew it. Another one is to just call them up and say, or visit and say, this and this and this came up. Sorry about that. Really, I'm sorry. Really, I'm sorry. Really, I'm sorry. It was such a hardship. I'm really sorry about that. These things came up. That's a little bit better than flaking, but not much, because you assume that the fact that your lack of showing up and creating a 0 usability for that time is somehow excused and made right with them because you had a problem. That's how we live, but that's not being in integrity. Another way to do that is simply to say, you know what? I didn't show up for you. That's not okay. The reason doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to know, I overslept, but it doesn't matter. That's not okay. What do I need to do right now to make that okay? Better, because I can't make it okay. And if there's an ongoing piece to the relationship, here is what I have done to make sure that never happens again. I forgot. I didn't get up my alarm. I've got another one. I put an alarm. I've set it in my phone. I didn't do it. I thought I would remember. So now I've got that done. I've taken steps to make sure, because I value our relationship, that this doesn't happen again. So this is the next best thing to making a new agreement, but it's after the fact. It's amelioration. It's mitigation. It's acknowledging, first of all, the hardship and the problem that you created by flake. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay. So let's review. Today we talked about how to start moving toward a journey of integrity. And that's 1, make a firm commitment that you're going to make some change. Commit to it. Start today. Start with the small stuff. Keep score and make a new habit of either making a new agreement, which is not just information, but a new agreement, or if a problem shows up and you've missed it, you do the next best thing, which is mitigation and what you're going to do in the future in that circumstance so that it won't happen again. Manny mentions a subtle point is receiving the feedback from the interaction partner. That's critical, because if all of this is one-sided, again, you're making all the assumptions. So one of the things you could do and should do in that is, I didn't show up for you today. That's not okay. What was the damage caused to you because I didn't show? And then just be quiet and listen. That might provide you clues as to mitigation. It might provide you clues as to things you can do to make sure it never happens again. And it will certainly lend an air of seriousness to your intention and the way you have treated or perceived this interaction failure, or your flakedom, if that's a word. All right. So again, I apologize for our guests' inability to not perform, but to participate today because of technical issues. He's certainly been performing with the baby the entire time, and so we've all been entertained with that performance, which is excellent. And being the good dad and doing the good dad thing there with the baby. Thank you for joining us for these 3 weeks on integrity, what it is, why it matters so much, and then some basic steps on how to do a life, how to create a life of integrity. If you want to know more about this, get a hold of me, breakthecagenow.com, www.breakthecagenow.com. You see that on the, you see that on the lower third there. Let's talk, because this kind of transformational stuff, helping people create their lives as they wish them to be, all the health, wealth, happiness, integrity, and power they wish to live in, that's my business. Transformational coaching to achieve your absolute peak performance, highest potential, and maximum happiness. Grateful for your participation today, and hopefully you're able to listen in a way that this is useful for you. I mean, I'm just somebody talking, and I'm just going to say whatever I say. The ears that you hear this with is what's going to make a difference. If you hear this with receptive and powerful ears, this can make a difference for you. If you don't, perhaps there will be another time. Again, thank you. Don't hesitate to get a hold of me at www.breakthecagenow.com. Leave your comments in the on the event page or in the YouTube stream. Love to hear from you. Again, thank you. We will start our 6-week course on language next Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Until then, break the cage now.